Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a special edition, our first one of this season, a Linners and Wosers Premier League predictions, where the guys and I get together and we're discussing what our Premier League predictions are going to be, who we think the Golden Boot manager of the season, all kinds of different goods that we're going to go ahead and dive into just in a minute. I want to go ahead and bring on the stream with me, the guys. Here we have joining me.
What's up?
So,
Guys,
fellas,
remember Nick, Linners and Wosers, Yvonne, our newest sports journalist and analyst on Linners and Wosers, joining us here for our very first. This is your first Linners and Wosers pod, yeah?
yes, sir, yes, sir. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're excited to have you along. Just a little bit of info about you, Yvonne, before we have you share a little bit about you. You guys know already enough about Nick and I. Follow us on all sites, social media, Twitter. But Yvonne here joining us to cover Liga MX, the Mexican national team. He's already put out pieces discussing Leagues Cup, his love for Lionel Messi. And Yvonne, go ahead and share a little bit about you.
Yes, I was born in Mexico. Hence my love for El Tri. I'm an America fan. I have loved soccer or football ever since I had conscience, since I was 6 years old. And I am a sports journalist. I graduated with a journalism major. So hopefully I can make my way into the field. And I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of discussion here tonight. General discussion a little bit about last season, our summer transfers. You know, who had the best summer transfers? Some players that we like making some big moves. I know Arsenal had some big signings. Chelsea had some big players leave the club. Saudi Arabia has picked up a lot of good players. The rise of that league, but we won't be touching on that. It's mostly just Premier League fixed tonight. And then towards the end of here, we're going to go ahead and get towards the predictions of the season. But it's been a pretty exciting summer. We haven't done one of these in a while, but footy goes on. Footy doesn't stop for Linners and Wosers. And we've gotten the chance to keep up with Leagues Cup, MLS. You know, I went to Las Vegas to watch the FC Barcelona against AC Milan match. But again, footy doesn't stop for Linners and Wosers. So as the season's about to begin, we're about to go ahead and share our thoughts on the Premier League 2023 and 2024 predictions. So a little bit of general discussion, guys. Let's recap a little bit on last season here and everything that happened. Man City winning the league, winning the Champions League. Pep Guardiola finally doing it with that prolific world-class striker of his, Erling Haaland. And Man United signing Eric Ten Hag, getting rid of Ronaldo, a really good finish, one silverware. Brighton absolutely surprised us. Aston Villa making a huge comeback towards the end of the season once they appointed Unai Emery. West Ham getting that Europa League Conference League trophy there. Huge silverware for that club. They, Declan Rice joining Arsenal. So a bunch of things happened last season, but let's go ahead and just dive in here on Man City, man. Man City is an absolute powerhouse last season, winning the league. Erling Haaland, what a player. Guys, what a player Erling Haaland is.
Oh yeah. The OVNI, the extraterrestrial Norwegian. I think he exceeded our expectations. Like he exceeded my expectations. 36 goals, beating Mohamed Salah. I think it was fantastic. And it's funny. Who doesn't remember Guardiola's speech saying we cannot replace Agüero, and then immediately Erling Haaland steps in. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of as a Liverpool fan, it was kind of tough seeing Erling Haaland break his record, but that's just who he is. He's a generational talent. He's got an unreal Champions League record as well. Everyone knew that once you put him on this unreal City squad, that he was going to produce goals, and I didn't think they were going to do it because it is tough to do, but they won the treble this year, so Manchester City were the real deal. Erling Haaland was player of the year, in my opinion, because he was that guy that made the difference. So,
I mean, a handful of players on Man City's side made the difference. Pep Guardiola was able to reshape Akanji into a ball playing center back. Nathan Ake got the opportunities to slide out a few times. That defense was really solid. John Stones, towards the end of the season, converted to CDM. That was a little bit of a surprise, at least for me. Kyle Walker absolutely played fantastic again towards the end of the season when things get really congested, games get more difficult, I think, and they're doing a deep run in these competitions. So, and they brought in, Jack Grealish for a lot of money, Erling Haaland, as you mentioned, World Cup winner Julian Alvarez. This summer, not the same spending, not the same movement. I feel like with Man City, they really bring in players that they need that fit their system. They're not just huge spenders, bring in whoever for a lot of money, kind of like what we saw Chelsea in the past. Yeah, of course, they're big spenders. They have the financial backing to go ahead and do that. But I think that their strategy is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really good. Can't deny that. Nick, I want to ask you, at any point last season, did you think Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp were going to part ways?
No, I don't think so. I just think that I feel like it's being unsaid, but I think Jurgen Klopp is shielding bad ownership at Liverpool, and it's pretty clear that we were out of depth this last year, and it might be a continuous trend this year as well.
Interesting. But we'll see what where we have Liverpool end in our predictions and how they go ahead and kick off the season. Some acquisitions this summer. We'll dive into those. But any other general thoughts, discussions on last season? Any moments that really stood out to you guys?
I think it's important to. What struck me the most is having the talent that he had on the bench. You had a player like Calvin Phillips, who we know was a big talent for the World Cup in 2022 for England, and then he barely played last season, and yet you had him there, and he showed up when he needed to show up. Also, players like Ruben Diaz, who was a magnificent on the back. Ederson, who's always a reliable goalkeeper. I mean, you have all this talent in Man City. Mares, who was also a star. Just all around Guardiola. That's the magic that Guardiola can do, bringing all the best potential into players. So that's a lot to give in.
Some interesting departures even during last season. Some big names leaving the Premier League. Cristiano Ronaldo, just not really clicking at Man United. Over at Tottenham, Antonio Conte, very successful domestic coach, parting ways. And that just shows you how the Premier League is. It's valued at the top league in the world right now. So even some of these big stars, whether that be manager or players, if you can't cut it out, can't do it, can't fit in the system that the team provides you, you're out. Not even to another team, just straight out of the league. And then you have other players, other coaches who were undervalued at the beginning of the season, and they absolutely stood out. A team that really was undervalued at the beginning, Brighton, with Roberto De Zerbi. I think a lot of pundits didn't have the faith, the belief that he could do it in the English game. But how beautiful was it to watch Brighton play? It's fantastic.
They're outstanding. Now they're in a European spot. They're going to get a chance to travel around the continent and show off that beautiful brand of football. That was I was also one of the skeptical people because I thought Graham Potter really had Brighton ticking. And I felt like it was just a really odd time to leave because when he left, they were like sitting 5th or 6th. They weren't sitting in a poor position. Brighton was doing really well with good results over the season. But I think Roberto De Zerbi brought better football to Brighton, and it will be interesting to see how they do with some of the talent leaving their team, like Alexis McAllister, who was one of their standout players from last season, one of their most improved players from the season before, going to Liverpool. And just genuinely, finishing in a European spot is tough in the Premier League, and it's, tough to replicate with other teams improving. So I'm just interested to see how Brighton do. Aston Villa's really made some good signings over the summer. I think they'll be challenging for European spots.
Going back to Brighton, I think that you have to remark the players. I mean, you had a tremendous midfield with McAllister, but also one of the stars that is barely talked about is Moises Caicedo, who was very good defensively, um,
Mhm.
and you had a very cohesive midfield. That's what wins games. Midfield. Uh, yeah, Caicedo being the to me the start of that team.
I want to backtrack to you mentioning Graham Potter. He had his spell at Chelsea that didn't really work out, getting all those draws, some bad results, him getting the boot, and then getting replaced later that season by club legend, already a manager who's had a stint at Chelsea, Frank Lampard. And Frank Lampard did so bad at both Everton and Chelsea in the same season. So
Yeah,
bad.
I don't think the Premier League is his level. I don't think he was expected to do anything at Chelsea.
Sure.
But he definitely showed a lot of other clubs that he's probably not worth his signature. So
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I thought Everton, and I was rooting for this at an Everton relegation. Towards the end of the season, I was shocked that they were able to go ahead and pull it off and stay in the Prem. So kind of upsetting about that. One thing we didn't touch on, and I want to just touch on briefly before we go ahead and move over to, general discussion on the summer transfers that came in. But the wave, I guess the American landing in the Premier League at Leeds with Jesse Marsh, Tyler Adams, Brendan Aronson, and then later this season, Weston McKennie. Some thoughts on those boys. Jesse Marsh, eventually did get the boot. Didn't work out for them at Leeds. It was a difficult project. He came from RB Leipzig before playing in Europe, and now coming over to the Premier League. He was already facing a lot of pressure from the media. A lot of, I don't want to say pressure, but a lot of eyes from American fans who watch the Premier League were definitely keeping tabs on Leeds, their new favorite team for that season. And some of the players, get mixed opinions and mixed reviews. Tyler Adams is liked by some, disliked by others in the American fan base. Weston McKennie absolutely not liked at all by the English fan base, whereas the American fan base, even myself, I think he's a fantastic midfielder. I think he has a lot of talent. I think he's going to show that a lot over at Juventus this year. And then Brendan Aronson, someone who I don't know if we can all agree on this. Perhaps this league is a little too physical for someone his size and his physicality. He had that one moment at the beginning of the
especially for his
season.
price tag.
Yeah. Now he's at Union Berlin. He's going to go ahead and do his own thing over at the Bundesliga, which I am huge fan of American players going to the Bundesliga. I think that's a really good level. It's a top league that can go ahead and develop, personally their own skills, but at the same time really fit into a system, play really good ball. And I feel like the pressure there is not as tough as it is in the Premier League. So,
yeah, I think it's an easier cultural switch as well.
Sure. But that will go ahead and just wrap up here a little bit on, our general discussion here on last season. So last season in the books, it's gone, whatever. Liverpool didn't win. I'm sorry, Nick. But let's go ahead and talk about summer transfers. I'll go ahead and kick us off. Arsenal. I think Arsenal had some massive, fantastic signings, and I'm a huge fan of both Declan Rice and Kai Havertz joining the club. I'll be honest. I think Kai Havertz is a top six team league. He should be playing for a top six team in any league. And so, despite maybe ups and downs at this Chelsea time, that beautiful Champions League goal in the final against Man City, he'll go ahead and be remembered for Chelsea fans, lifting them the trophy. Fantastic memory there. But I think he has a really good chance linking up with Martin Odegaard, Emile Smith-Rowe, some of the other Gabriel Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, some of these faster, younger-paced players who are able to go ahead and play under Mikel Arteta's system, move the ball around really well. And then I think this season we're going to go ahead and see a different player. I think he's going to be playing a little bit deeper. I know at Chelsea he played that number 9 at times. In Germany he was playing that 10 position, but I think in Mikel Arteta's system he's going to be playing that box-to-box 8. And I feel like we're going to go ahead and see a different type of player there. But they also brought in Declan Rice for a huge price tag, someone who's Premier League proven. But what do you think about European? Because now Arsenal is in a Champions League spot. And, in his time at West Ham didn't play Champions League. And so they didn't, They didn't get that experience there. So although he has played internationally for England, this is going to be a new challenge for him just to see how he goes ahead and cope playing against different teams, different style of play in different leagues. But guys, thoughts on Arsenal's transfers?
They spent $231 million
Pounds or
pounds.
euros?
Pounds.
I think they might have been
Well,
euros.
it's 105 million pounds.
Yes. Okay, 231 million euros. I mean, when you're a team that needs that needs silverware to be recognized again. I mean, they emptied their wallets, and I mean that midfield is just scary. It gives me shivers just to think about Declan Rice, Havertz, and Odegaard together, and also the a great transfer is Folarin Balogun, who came from Reims. I think he's a fantastic player, a fantastic forward. Who we saw a little bit of him in Nations League, and Jahrin Timber, who I didn't mind Saliba or Ben White, but I think he's perfect for the team.
Yeah, I
So
wonder.
let me just
I really
quickly,
go ahead.
let me just dive in onto. I don't think Balogun will be at Arsenal very much longer. To be fair,
Hmm.
um, teams in the market are going after him. Arsenal look keen to get him off their books just to open up more, space on their squad to keep building. It's just crazy. Like this Arsenal rebuild was quiet. It was silent. It was pretty scary. Like
Right now,
Arsenal
there's
look
big
legit.
interest in Inter and Monaco for Balogun, who over the summer committed for the United States. Which, man, we saw him playing against both Canada and Mexico, and dudes, dudes at the top of the U.S. men's national team striker pool. Overtaking Ricardo Pepi, Jesus Ferreira, Josh Sargent, Haji Wright, Jordan Pifuk, Gazzy Zardes. I'm kidding about the last one. But I want to talk about a little bit about Chelsea too. Chelsea with the unlimited. It seems like unlimited. All these players leaving. They're not even going to other Premier League teams. They're straight going to Saudi Arabia. We saw Koulibaly make the jump
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not
So,
expecting that.
after
who
just
else?
one season for the Chelsea. N'Golo Kante, who's had a
Like,
fantastic spell in the Premier League. We all remember those 2 years for both Chelsea and Leicester, how fantastic he was as a player and how crucial he was for both teams in the midfield. Everyone talked about him like he had two set of lungs in his body and is able to go ahead and continuously run. World Cup winner.
they
And
lost Mason Mount to United.
Mason Mount to Manchester United, which that one's
And
going to be an
Edward
interesting.
Mendy.
Edouard Mendy, he also went to Saudi Arabia, correct. So right now they're sticking with Kepa. It looks like Gaga Slonina might go ahead and get the move elsewhere on loan to a Belgian side.
What about Captain America?
Yep, Christian
Pulisic
Pulisic
out of there.
joining the biggest club in Italy, AC Milan.
There you go. Also
Repping
flexing.
it. Love it, love it. You know who looked good in that jersey specifically, Nick? Fernando Torres.
Yeah, for those 9 games, those are sick.
Great stat, 1 goal in 9 games. And ooh, and then Aston Villa. Nick, you mentioned Aston Villa a little bit. Go ahead and give us some insight on that.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds to pull their squad transfers up. But I think the most underrated transfer window of the season, they pulled Yuri Tielemans from a relegated Leicester. He's a quality midfielder. He's still mid-20s. They got Pau Torres for a good price because the other top 5 European leagues are suffering a little bit of money. So getting him on a 40 mil euro, that's a good bargain from Villarreal. He's a solid center back, and he's gonna hold it down because Unai Emery is very keen. He's very aware of the Spanish game. He's good at getting quality players. He's very in tune with playing in Europe as well. And probably the most underrated signing of Aston Villa would be Moussa Diaby.
Mm-hmm.
To me, he's like he reminds me of just early league Sadio Mane. He's very smart. He's very quick. He can beat a player 1v1, and I just love like how creative he is as well. He was like one of the perfect players setting up Patrick Schick and others at Bayer Leverkusen. So he's definitely an underrated signing that I think Unai Emery is going to get the best out of. So I'm definitely excited for Aston Villa. I have really high hopes for them this season.
Yeah, I agree. I think Moussa Diaby is perfect in the right wing. I think he's going to give a lot of depth to the squad.
Mhm.
And Tielemans, who we know who was had a very unfortunate season last season, but still a very talented player, a very quality midfielder. So I'm excited to see how they're going to perform.
Yeah, me too.
Moving on to another summer transfer team. Uh, Maybe not a lot of spending in your eyes, Nick, but they did bring in two good players. One from Brighton, one from Salzburg, from Austria,
Or,
Liverpool.
yeah, he was from Leipzig.
Oh yeah,
But
he went to Leipzig. Yep, from
yeah,
Salzburg to Leipzig. Yep.
I'm not really impressed with Liverpool's transfer window because of the amount lost. I probably call it some of the worst business in Europe when you lose Ox on a free, Milner on a free, Firmino on a free, Keita on a free, all in one transfer window. And then you have the Saudi League decide to flex its muscles this year, and then they poached Henderson and Fabinho mid-window. It's quality getting McAllister and Soboslai, but it's just kind of scary. We have the lowest amount of squad players in the league going into the season, and we're pretty. If you base the last 3 seasons, we're pretty subject to injuries. So I'm kind of scared to see how the season goes. One of those midfielders go out, and you're putting on a kid that's not ready for this level, and you have Liverpool expectations of 3 points every game. I just don't see. I just don't see it.
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan because I think I like I said, I think midfield wins games, and I think Szoboszlai is a quality player. I think that McAllister showed up big time for Brighton, showed up big time for Argentina, and I think they're gonna do really well. I I know we disagree here, Nick, but I don't know. I think their quality and Mohamed Salah, which is he's still a great player, an elite
Mhm.
player, and Darwin Nunez, who hopefully can score more goals because I know Liverpool needs them.
Mhm.
But
Uh,
what are your expectations for
yes.
where do you expect them to finish?
Oh,
Because
we're gonna touch on that.
we might have different expectations though.
We'll touch on that. We'll touch on that. You hold that thought, Ivan. You hold that thought. Come back to it because we got your prediction table right here. But
Yes.
Nick, I think there's one more signing for Liverpool in there. One, and I'm not talking like a depth piece, but I'm talking like a serious signing for Liverpool in there.
I
Be
don't know.
hopeful. Be hopeful.
I know this group, bro. Yeah.
Manchester United. Manchester United
Oof.
poaching Mason Mount from Chelsea just brought in their own Norwegian striker from Atalanta, who's bagging the goals. It's a quality signing, and it looks like they might have, controversial, but it looks like they might have Mason Greenwood back for this upcoming season. I wonder how his touches are going to be where he comes into the team. David De Gea looks like he's no longer part of Manchester United's plan, so they bring in Andre Onana from Inter Milan. And recently, West Ham bid for both Scott McTominay and Harry Maguire, 60 million for both.
Wow.
Hope,
So,
Well,
hopefully.
all I wanted to say to start off was, um, it's been half a year in the making, but I predicted this transfer for the Denmark kid to United. Um, United were in desperate need of a number 9, and players like Dusan Vlahovic were just expensive on the market. You not exactly reliable. There weren't exactly reliable 9s. So I predicted to my our buddy Austin, who will be a part of Linners and Wosers soon, so keep tune in for that. But I did predict to him in January that I think United should sign Rasmus Højlund because I thought the kid was just a stud. I've been watching From his first squad, he scored like 12 goals last season, and then at Atalanta this season, and then 1,800 minutes, most coming off the bench. He bagged 9 league goals, 0 penalties, and he looked great. And I thought United were in need of a kid like that, like someone that's young, ready to take on that role. I truly don't believe Mason Greenwood's going to be around for long because he's surrounded by too much controversy.
I'm not gonna lie, Nick. I'm glad you brought on Dusan Vlahovic. Being too expensive in this market right now. I'm honestly so far happy that both Dusan Vlahovic, Victor Osimhen, Rafael Leao have not left Serie A and come to the Premier League. And I know all three were linked to a Premier League move, but coming from Serie A to the Premier League, just to change your gear right now. Sandro Tonali, 70 million euros to Newcastle United. Some deem him generational for the Italian squad. Next Pirlo, the next Gattuso, the next Sandro Tonali. He is an interesting player, a huge prospect, and I think in the Premier League, this is a big move for him. I know Newcastle had a fantastic season last year, and now they're in Europe, and they're just adding to the squad. I mean, they're financially backed up by whole country, so they have unlimited resources to go ahead and do that. And thoughts on Sandro Tonali coming to the Premier League, player of his stature?
I'm interested to see if he'll adjust to the more physical game. I don't watch enough Serie A. I know you do, but I just know a lot of players, just depending on talent, skill level, kind of tend to struggle when they hop in the Premier League. But I do think they bought him for a reason. He's going to fit Eddie Howe's side. So I think he's going to adjust.
I think he's going to fit in nice.
5 games.
Nice box-to-box midfield in that system. He's very physical, aggressive. If he stays healthy, I think he's going to play a very important role. And so if Newcastle's looking to go ahead and have another fantastic domestic year, he's going to be a key part of it.
I'm a big fan of Sandro Tonali, but also I like the signing of Harvey Barnes. I think he's going to be quality for them, and they're going to need it since the departure of San Maximin, who I think was a big blow for Newcastle, going to LLE. But I think that those two are going to be big for Newcastle hopes and coming into, and they're stacked with a lot of money with this new the money that they had. And I think they're going to do really well.
Nick, thoughts? And Ivan, you're more than welcome to chip in on this, but U.S. men's national team starting goalkeeper Matt Turner making a move to Nottingham Forest.
I think it's super important. He wasn't getting I think any logical person as well in the room would want their starting keeper to be getting as many minutes as possible,
100%.
Playing at the highest level possible. And I think him at Nottingham Forest is a good step in his career. And I think he's going to really surprise us. I think he's a quality keeper that in the last couple of years I probably would have picked Stefan over him, but I think he's definitely the obvious number one choice for the U.S. I'm just super impressed, and I think it's a great signing.
I'm going to agree with you. It's super important for him to go ahead and get those minutes. We saw with, Zach Steffen when he was at Man City as the backup, when that translated to the national team, the lack of minutes and game time really took an impact on the pitch. We saw that Nations League final against Mexico in Denver. He had to go ahead and come off a few games from Man City. When he stepped in, he looked a little bit shaky. So making sure that, your nation's starting goalkeeper is getting consistent playing time in the league is absolutely crucial. So I think this is also a good move for him. I think Nottingham Forest is going to have themselves a good season. I don't think any of us have them relegated.
I think I might.
Oh shoot, Nick, no faith in the Forest.
No.
Well, guys, any other transfers we should go ahead and touch up on before we go ahead and get to our predictions?
Maybe we should talk about the Saudi League. I do have one statement that I want to make about the Saudi League. I think we're going to really feel the Saudi League's flex if FIFA allows them to continue their transfer window, which ends on September 21st, 3 weeks after the Prem. So they're going to start negotiating with all those people with 6 months left on their contract and all that. So I wonder if that's going to play a factor with also other top 5 leagues. They come in with a ton of money. I think the Prem is starting to get a little taste of their own medicine, on how they've treated the top 7 leagues in Europe, even the top 10 with theirs. But it's just kind of crazy the money that's coming in and the players that potentially are willing to go over to Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm. I mean, money talks. Money talks. This is no longer a passion, unfortunately. I mean, they're doing well. They're setting their families for success. They're setting themselves for success, which is something that should be appreciated as people, as family men. But at the end of the day, it's no longer about money. I mean, it's no longer a passion. It's about money, which is sad in my opinion. But
I just think at the same time they were set up, some of these guys already.
It looks like Koulibaly. I mean, it wasn't just about the money. He's closer to his culture there. So,
well, yes.
But
something I did want to mention that I want to touch on about Chelsea's transfer. I am a big fan of Christopher Nkunku. I think they're the killer that Chelsea was looking for.
Yeah.
I think bagging 23 goals with in the Bundesliga really set him up to be this big signing for Chelsea, and I think he's going to do really well. I think he's going to bag at least 15 goals, I dare say. And I think he's going to be very remembered for Chelsea in generations to come.
I just want to hop in real quick. I don't know if you've heard, Ivan, but Nkunku might not be playing for a while. He damaged his meniscus in his knee, and he just did surgery. And so he's going to be out of the Chelsea squad for quite a bit of time. I think what we're talking about, 16 weeks.
Oh, wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, super heartbreaking, especially a player who's linked to Chelsea for a long time. Fans were really excited.
Agreement.
Really, really disappointing. And that's the risk with footy. Some big players make moves, and you had no Virgil van Dijk after the Everton game for a big part of the season. Yeah. So you know about that, but want to go ahead and dive in now to predictions of the season. So we're going to go ahead and do the teams first. Then we'll do the Golden Boot prediction, Player of the Year. Talk a little bit about those European spots. Teams that are getting potentially relegated, why we think they're going to get relegated, and then close out with some general discussions, a little bit about our thoughts ahead of the upcoming season. Make sure you guys tune into our Linners and Wosers on both Instagram and on Twitter to go ahead and get up-to-date breaking news about the Premier League, other leagues in Europe as well, all around the world. Game day, we'll go ahead and have some special events coming up for game day, post-game day. A handful of us will be writing post-match and pre-match reviews of the games, our thoughts, our predictions, discussion about it. If anything big happens, we'll be on top of it. So with no further ado, does anyone want to go first and share their Premier League predictions?
I can go.
Okay. I'll go ahead and share Ivan's Premier League predictions and go ahead and dive into a little bit about this 1st through 20th.
I really loved, and I know there's a lot of money to be made in City. There's a lot of money to be spent as well. Kovacic, Kevin De Bruyne, Julian Alvarez, Erling Haaland. I mean, this is a dream squad for any coach, for anybody, and especially for a coach like Pep Guardiola. I think he can exploit every position very well. I think he can exploit every player very well. And Arsenal hurts me because I think they have a great project. I think they have a great coach, but I think they're gonna miss out on, and they're gonna compete with Man City again, and they're just gonna bottle it as they do. Man United, the team of my heart, love their transfer season with Højlund and Mason Mount. But again, it's a progress. It's a team in progress. I think Ten Hag will make will have a good season. I think they might win some silverware, maybe the FA Cup, but I don't see them competing for the top two. Chelsea, love Chelsea. I think they're gonna bounce back a little bit. I think Pochettino is a great coach. I think that Nkunku, if when he recovers, he's gonna bag a lot of goals. I think that, but they're gonna struggle with the amounts that of players that they lost. Uh, Losing Kante is a big blow. Losing Koulibaly is gonna be a big blow, and Thiago Silva, I think he's still playing, and if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Kai Havertz as well.
Yeah, Kai Havertz. And yeah, it's an aging squad, but I think they're gonna bounce back because Pochettino is just, I think, a good coach. And I'm gonna jump into the relegation spots. And oh wait, talk about the West Ham United. West Ham United. I want to talk about West Ham too. Um, I think the signing of Edson Alvarez is gonna change a lot. And if Paqueta leaves to City, that's gonna be a big blow. But if Paqueta and Edson Alvarez stay together, I think it's gonna be huge for the hopes for West Ham United. Now, when it comes to Liverpool, I don't. I'm not sure about Darwin Nunez that he can be that striker that they need. I think he can improve, but he's young still. Um, but I think they can pull up a sixth place.
Tell us a little about here about Newcastle out of Europe. What's going on there?
I think they did well, but I think that they're gonna struggle with, again, Tonali, if he can adapt to the league, and if Isaac can still perform as well as he has,
Mm.
and if Almiron can perform as well he has, I don't know if they can do it a second season. And I just don't see Eddie Howe being that coach that gets the team ahead. I think they're gonna struggle, but I think seventh place is a good place for them. Not gonna lie,
Man,
because
Miguel Almiron, when that guy is playing his game, he can be threatening. But when he's not in the game, his old MLS self is showing.
yeah,
It shows hard.
and I think they're gonna struggle. I put Fulham in there just because I want them to see. I want to see them succeed with the Jimenez transfer. I know Jimenez has been very poor these past few seasons with unfortunate injury with David Luiz. But if he can score really, really well. He can be a very tough
Hmm.
uh, striker. I just
I
want to
think
see them succeed.
I think that's a good replacement for Mitrovic
Hmm.
for the type of club that he is, and I'm interested to see what the conversation between Raul Jimenez and Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson is going to be like in trainings, just kind of flexing those uh,
CONCACAF.
CONCACAF rivalry a little bit, but they're teammates now.
Luton Town. I think they're going to do poor, better than 20th. But I think they're still going to be really poor this season. I think they need to invest a little bit of money into their team. I like a Cinderella story, but I think they're going to pull a Cinderella story. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
So just thanks for sharing your thoughts and your predictions. We're going to save them here, come back to them, December and at the end of the year, see where we're looking at. But one thing that really stands out to me is both Brighton, Aston Villa out of the top 10.
Yes, I think without McAllister, it's going to be a big blow.
Hmm.
I think McAllister was really the brain and the motor of that team. I think Caicedo cannot do it alone without um, McAllister. I think that's going to be the key to how the Serbi is going to perform and Brighton's team is going to perform. And Aston Villa, yes, they made good signings, but they always struggle.
Hmm.
They're not a top side that you imagine winning a lot of games. And I think top 12 place is a good step for them.
Now you're Tottenham at 11th. Is this with or without the Harry Kane?
Both. I think
Hmm.
either or. I think there is a tiredness with with Tottenham not winning anything. I think there's a disparity with the team. I think the team is unmotivated. I think the team is not cohesive enough, and I think they're going to struggle, and it's going to show this season.
Okay. Nick, any thoughts on Yvonne's predictions here?
I think West Ham's a bit high, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for. We're gonna go ahead and post Yvonne's Premier League predictions here on Twitter tomorrow, which will be tomorrow's Thursday. Probably going to go ahead and come out before the video comes out, but all of our predictions. But again, we're going to come back to them at the end of the season. Manchester City win it in again. Arsenal not strong enough to knock them out of that top spot. Wolverhampton, Sheffield United, Luton Town. Thanks for coming. Go back to the Champions League. Not Champions, excuse me, Championship. It's very late here. It's actually it's 11:30, but we're doing it. We're doing it. I'm going to go ahead and share mine, and then Nick will go ahead and dive into yours. At the top of mine, yes, you guessed it. We have oh, you know what? We're missing two of them here real quick. Let me go ahead and do one of these. There we go. Manchester City, again, coming off that treble season last season, although they just lost the Community Shield. It's okay. I think they have a solid squad, as you mentioned, bringing in some key players that Pep Guardiola is going to go ahead and utilize. They still have a pretty solid back line, and Erling Haaland is just going to absolutely blow the Premier League once again. I think this last season wasn't a one-time thing. I think he's going to be doing it as long as he's in the Prem with a coach like Pep Guardiola and a system with players like Kovacic, Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne behind him. Those goals are just going to keep on coming. And second for me, I think Liverpool. I think although Liverpool, Nick's thoughts on the transfer window and some of these key players leaving, he did mention those injuries, that Liverpool is an injury-prone team. But when Liverpool's winning, they're a strong side. And when they look good, they really look good. And so I think this year they're going to go ahead and pick up those 3 points where they didn't go ahead and pick up last season. Be strong. I think some of the teams below Liverpool might drop points here and there where they shouldn't have. So Liverpool is really going to go ahead and put all their chips here in the Premier League, make sure that they have a good run and qualify for that Champions League spot for the following season. And then third for me is Arsenal. Despite Arsenal looking really good, as I mentioned, Liverpool is going to look really good. Arsenal, they're going to win some games. I think with the Champions League, some of those, the schedule is going to get a little bit congested. Some of these players, some of these younger players are going to go ahead and face and see what it's like to be playing multiple games, a lot of games throughout the month. And so for them, they'll drop some points here and there against teams that are going to look relatively stronger than we might have predicted. Some of the other teams in the top 10. I'm not saying they're going to lose those games, but perhaps some ties here and there. Mikel Arteta, although a great coach, still needs to go ahead and build a solid foundation and a solid squad that can go ahead and push for multiple years, not just 1 or 2 years, knock Man City off and then celebrate. At number 4, Manchester United. Man, when United struggle, they struggle. And I think they'll have a few spells here and there where they will go ahead and, struggle to go ahead and get those points, those 3 points, whether they walk out with 1 or just no point at all. But they still have a solid squad. They just picked up a really good goal scorer. I think he'll go ahead and bag a handful himself, over 10. But some of these other players that we saw last year, don't convince me a lot. Anthony, although, he was a great player coming into the team, he fits Eric Ten Hag's system the way he wants him. I think, when he ghosts, he really ghosts. Mason Mount, I think, although coming over from Chelsea, I think he might find a little bit that pressure at Manchester United is a little bit different. He might struggle here and there. And for them, I think fourth is a really good finish. Looking back at the season, some of the games that they're going to have, I think fourth, they're going to go ahead and be content with that. At 5 and 6, Aston Villa and Newcastle. Aston Villa, I think, is going to, under Unai Emery, really going to go ahead and look good this year. I think they're going to go ahead and win a lot more games than some people might predict. And right underneath them is Newcastle. Newcastle, same story with Arsenal. They're going to go ahead and face Champions League football, and some of these players need to go ahead and click and make sure that they can go ahead and play in multiple of these competitions. And I think they'll lose some points here and there. I think the expectations might be a little too high from people on Newcastle, despite their financial backing. I think last year was punching really hard, and they fought really well, but now they're in the Champions League competition. Some teams who make the Champions League kind of put some evenly spread out their chips. Last season, Newcastle really put a lot of their effort into the domestic league, but now they'll have to go ahead and focus Champions League, because if they do have an early Champions League exit, they still have that possibility of the Europa League. So, and that's another trophy that Newcastle can go ahead and pursue for them. Chelsea at seventh. I think a fairly young squad that Mauricio Pochettino, that team lacks some serious veterans. I know that they have Thiago Silva, but they just lost some really key players in that team. And they're bringing in a lot of young players. Last season they struggled. I think this season they're not necessarily going to struggle like last season. I think they're going to win a handful of games because they do have really good players. But I think that the teams above them, like Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man United, those are just teams right now that are just too hard to beat for them. And then, with the teams around them, depending on the time of the season that they'll go ahead and play them, the injuries, a huge blow and losing out Christopher Nkunku right now. But I think Chelsea at seventh, and then just below them, eighth and ninth, 10th, Brighton, Tottenham, Burnley. For me, relegation, Luton Town, Wolverhampton, Sheffield United. Luton Town, I don't see them getting anything higher than 18th. Wolverhampton, I think they're coming to an end in their Premier League. I think it's time for them to go ahead and restructure their team and look at their nearby foreseeable future. I think a few seasons in the Championship will go ahead and do them good. Fulham, I think they're going to struggle a little bit this year. Everton, I don't fancy West Ham United finishing in the top 10 at all.
A question about your top 10, Burnley. What's the reason there?
Yeah, there's always one team that will go ahead and punch above their weight, and I think Burnley, will have a better season than some of the other Premier League team that are in the bottom top 10. They can be a very difficult side to go ahead and play against, and I don't know. There's something about them that I feel like they'll go ahead and overperform, and Burnley is that team that I think is going to overperform a little bit. Not too fancy on Crystal Palace, Brentford, or Bournemouth overperforming at all this season. I think they're going to be content with them being in the middle.
Solid.
Yeah, and I think Vincent Company, being one of Pep Guardiola's prodigies, had them playing extremely well in the championship last year, like historically well. They qualified for the Prem spots very early in the spring. So I think we're going to see that same reflection. They got little improvements in their squad. They just play really good football, and like Rico said, there's always that one club that punches above their weight. And I just also think that could be Burnley.
Yeah. I mean, for me, West Ham, I didn't even think they were going to go ahead and beat Fiorentina in the Conference League final, to be honest. And I don't see Lucas Paqueta staying at the club. The departure of Declan Rice is really going to hurt them. I think as good as Edson Alvarez is, he still has to adapt to the English game. And Everton, man, as much as I want them to be relegated, I don't think it's happening anytime soon. So I know some people think they're going to get relegated this season, but they always find a way, and they have still some players that could go ahead and surprise the club. Maybe in January, find moves out of there if they are headed to the Championship. But my number 9, Tottenham, I don't think they're going to have Kane. I think Kane is headed out the door. I don't think he wants to be part of this project anymore. Bayern's been
Who
really
could?
interested. No, I don't blame them. But that's my Premier League predictions. I'll go ahead and post them on my Twitter here. And then, Nick, we're going to go ahead and jump out to yours with Tottenham at the top.
No, so I have City again. I think Holland's going to eclipse 25-plus goals in the Prem this season. Maybe not have it as easy as last year, but he's too elite of a forward to not outscore everyone. With the addition of, I think Mateo Kovacic is just like a player that really pleases Pep Guardiola. Like that's an ideal player in his midfield. Great at keeping possession, solid defensively. He's going to give De Bruyne the proper space to advance forward. I am interested to see how City do without Riyad Mahrez. He was a solid player off the bench. He was a clutch player. Also, the clutchest player maybe on the team was Ilkay Gundogan. He's off to Barcelona. So, I still think City are too strong. I think Arsenal were really strong last year. They actually really surprised me. I thought the rebuild was like sneaky and perfect. I think the biggest thing for their squad this year, besides their additions on their team, was keeping Thomas Partey, not transferring him over to Saudi Arabia. Now I think our Arsenal have extremely strong depth in the midfield, even off the bench. And I really think they really could win it. Like I think it's gonna be really tight between them and City this year. Declan Rice is a good player. They overpaid for him, but they overplayed because he's a finished product in the league. He is overpaid. That's because West Ham demanded too much money. But then I got Liverpool. I think Liverpool. My expectations are Liverpool should be challenging for titles. I'm really scared we might even make top 5. Top 5 is Champions League spots this year, by the way, with the restructuring of the Champions League. So your goal is top 5. So yeah, I think Liverpool will be strong. Our strongest, our starting 11, our strongest front 3 will probably this year be Salah on the right, Cody Gakpo up top, Luis Diaz on the left, Darwin coming off the bench, Jota coming off the bench. It's going to be a really strong attack. I'm just worried about our midfield depth. Last year, we really struggled with depth in the midfield because of injuries. If we repeat that this year, we're definitely going to struggle again. I don't see us getting 3rd place, but if we are full and healthy, our starting 11 is too strong for most teams in the Prem. Then I have United. I think Eric Ten Hag was really strong last year. I think his form started to teeter off toward the end. But it was a really strong season. They played more games, going through in competitions. It was just a lot of legs on those United boys, so I think they really teetered off toward the end. They still secured their Champions League spot. I think they're going to look good again this year, get Champions League again. I think their transfer market hasn't been too impressive, to be honest. I wouldn't say Mason Mount is worth as much as they paid, but he is definitely a quality player. And I do think they still should go after a number 9, even though they paid this much, because the Denmark kid's just he's just not. We don't even know what he's going to be like in the league. It's a lot of pressure on a 19-year-old kid to come in at United, and when you know how the fan base is there, it's going to be interesting. I have Tottenham at 5th, but this all depends on if Harry Kane stays or not. I felt like Son had a really poor year at Tottenham last year. I think he will definitely pick it up this year. He's a really good player. I think it was just a one-off season where he had bad form. If Harry Kane stays, that he's just top 3, number 9 in the world. Even for the past 5 years, he's incredible. This all really depends on Harry Kane. I think Newcastle have done the business. I'm not even sad they lost St. Maximin. I don't think they needed him for that long for their rebuild in general. So I think Newcastle is going to do good things. I am interested in West Ham. If Paqueta leaves, obviously, I think they're going to drop. But West Ham isn't impressive. I think Edson Alvarez is impressive, even though he gets dominated by Americans in the national team. But he is a good player. He's quality at Ajax. Ajax fans had a lot of praise for him when he left, so good to see him. Then we have Chelsea. Chelsea, I think, is going to struggle because of the amount of players that did leave. It was just a ton of players. It was just a ton of players that left. Chelsea. So I think they're really going to struggle. I think if you're going to put in all these new signings and then ask them to try to finish in a top 5 spot this year, I think they're really going to struggle. Pochettino is a great coach. I just think the inexperience of the league is going to show on the field. One thing going for Chelsea though is they're not playing in Europe, so they will have plenty of time to focus on the league. But with Nkunku out, I did put that into mind with this ranking, so that's where Chelsea have. Aston Villa, really strong signings over the year, over the summer. I think one of the strongest over the summer. I think they're going to punch above their weight, a little less than last year, but I think staying consistent in that top 6 to 10 role for the next couple of years will really build on the squad. They will finish in European spots. They will start getting more experience outside of it. Then moving toward relegation, I have Everton just finishing outside. Everton always find a way. Everton's my favorite club's rivals. I don't really want them to get relegated, even though how funny it would be. It's always a joy to watch the Merseyside derbies during the season. I think Nottingham Forest were punching way above weight last season. I think they're really going to struggle this year, finish below. I think they're a yo-yo club at the moment. They might be bouncing up and down the next couple of years. I think Luton is way too inexperienced for the league this year. They're going to drop. Sheffield United, I think, like you said, for one of your clubs, Rico, I think their time is coming to an end in the Prem.
Mm-hmm.
Time to drop them off. We might be seeing Sheffield Wednesday back before we see United.
Yeah, I said that about Wolverhampton. I think their time is done in the Premier League. But, man, you're the only guy I know who doesn't want their rival to be relegated. And
those rivalry games are too fun.
no, I want to go ahead and touch up here. I know you mentioned Harry Kane if he stays, and Son having a better season than he did last season. Tottenham clinching a Champions League spot here over Newcastle, West Ham, and Chelsea. So where are you standing right now with Harry Kane on the club?
I'm thinking Harry Kane is going for records in his own country. So I think with how stubborn Daniel Levy is, he's probably going to stay this year. Bayern aren't a club they're going to offer. I think they're going to do one more bid, but I don't think they're going to offer enough that for Tottenham's chairman to say yes. I think Kane will stay. Stay eventually, break Alan Shearer's Premier League goal scoring record. And then maybe if he doesn't win trophies by then, he'll probably leave.
Okay. And looking at your top 5 right now, those Champions League teams, who do you think out of those top 5 is going to struggle playing against the others?
I think City will have no problems with Tottenham this year. They usually have problems with Tottenham. I think City will get 6 points on them this year. I think Liverpool and United will struggle with each other. I think Liverpool will probably get 1 point. United will get 4 this year. The title's honestly going to be decided between Arsenal and City playing each other. Can Arsenal beat them in a game?
That's how it's that close.
I truly think it's that close. I think Arsenal have done the business this summer. Josh Kroenke, Stan's son, he's really invested in this team. He's really wanted to see this team win. It's the most investment I've ever seen KFC go into Arsenal. Timber is a really impressive player from his preseason with Arsenal already in those games. Yeah, I think it's going to be really close.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned KC investment because we definitely get a lot of that here in Colorado, huh?
Nope.
Nope. Not at all. But thank you so much for sharing, everyone, our Premier League predictions. Again, you guys can catch them all on our Twitter and on Instagram coming out sometime this week. And we'll go ahead and touch back on them. I'm saving them, guys, because we're going to go back to this come December, come May, and go, man, we hit that on the nail, or where did we go wrong? How the heck did this team finish here? Or did we expect this at all? And so looks like the one thing that's consistent here between us three is Man City finishing first, and Brentford finishing 13th. So
What about Luton? Is Luton out in all of them?
Luton is not in the same spot for all of them, but we all think they're going to get relegated. So
Goodbye,
if Luton,
Luton.
if they could pull an upset on us because they, tune into our video and end of the year F you to us, I'm not even going to be mad.
All right, let's do a really quick before we end this up. Let's do a really quick Golden Boot prediction. Let's do. I'll say your name. You just say who you think is going to win the Golden Boots. Tell me like a goal plus amount.
Okay.
So we'll do Yvonne first. Who do you think is going to win the Golden Boot this year?
I think it's going to be Haaland. To me, it's a given. I think he's going to be even, dare I say, outdo his record. Because he's more adapted to the league. Or he's going to be at least 3 goals behind. But he's going to get past the 30 goal mark easily. I think Marco Rashford could come in second, but Haaland has it in locked easily.
Rico?
Yeah, without a doubt. Erling Haaland is definitely going to go ahead and get that golden boot. I think despite how phenomenal he was last season, I think this season is probably going to be better. I expect 35 goals plus.
Sweet. I think if anyone's challenging him, it would be Harry Kane again.
Yeah.
I think his goal tally from last season was really impressive on that Tottenham side. I think we're going to see, yes, he's more adjusted to the league, but I don't think he's that dimensional of a player to build on what he's already done. So I think 30 goals, winning the Golden Boot for Haaland still is probably a good mark.
Yeah. Yeah. If Erling Haaland wasn't in the league, then you said Harry Kane. I'd probably say Mo Salah. What about you, Yvonne?
I'd say Michael Rashford.
Marcus Rashford, aka Marcus DoorDashford.
Hey, I like him. I'm a Man U fan. I want to see success.
Nah, he's good. He's good.
Man, do you guys remember the conversations where Marcus Rashford was up there with Mbappe and Haaland?
Yeah, I do remember that.
I remember those episodes of Fraud Watch.
I'm not gonna lie, I was guilty of putting Dusan Vlahovic up in that conversation when he was at Fiorentina.
I'm guilty at Dybala when he was at Palermo.
No shame, no shame. Let's go ahead and predict our player of the year. Player of the year. Kick us off, Nick. Who do you think?
Player of the year, it's probably going to be, if Arsenal sneak it, it's going to be Odegaard, I think. Because he's an exceptional talent. That man's an engine. So creative. Most creative player they've had since Mesut Ozil. If it's City, probably usual suspect. That man, Kevin De Bruyne, is unstoppable when he's on the pitch. If Haaland bags 35 plus more, he'll always be in the conversation. Yeah, I think it's between De Bruyne, Haaland, or Odegaard.
Yvonne?
I'm going to say De Bruyne too, just because, the man is a machine. But I also would like to mention Kovacic. I think Kovacic is a very talented player. I think he's going to be... I think it's going to be a 3-way race between Odegaard. I agree with you, Nick. De Bruyne and Kovacic. Both of them are going to be huge, and it's going to be battle between Kevin De Bruyne and Kovacic.
Yeah, for me, if it's going to be a Man City player, it's going to be Erling Haaland with the goals he's going to go ahead and score. I think he's due for that personal trophy like that, personal achievement. So Erling Haaland for me. And if it's not going to go ahead and be Erling Haaland or a Man City player, I remember I put Liverpool at second. I think just the wonders that a player like Mo Salah can go ahead and do in the Premier League, putting that team on their back. If they lose 4-3 and Mo Salah scored 2 and assisted once, we're going to see that. And that's why I think he's going to be player of the year again. But I'd say 89% of me thinks it's definitely Erling Haaland. So that will go ahead and wrap up Golden Boot, Player of the Year. We'll go ahead and close out these individual awards with Manager of the Year, guys. And Nick, go ahead. Who do you think?
I think if we're not going with the champion, I think it's going to be Unai Emery.
Great minds think alike.
If we're going with it just depends. Like if you're going to pick a champion, it's going to be whoever wins it. So Pep or Mikel. I think Klopp could be in the race depending on how far he pushes Liverpool. But like I said, come spring, we may not see Liverpool in the race with their squad depth. So yeah, I think I'll go Pep or Unai Emery.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to put Unai Emery there because I have Aston Villa punching up so high. And so if it's not Unai Emery, Mikel Arteta, I think Arsenal is going to have a fantastic year. So a coach like him who's done a fantastic job in rebuilding this Arsenal squad and bringing in fantastic players, I think he's going to showcase a fantastic system that fans are going to love, even neutrals are going to love. And for me, Mikel Arteta, Unai Emery. Ivan?
I have three thoughts. I agree that Unai Emery, despite the fact that I have them in 12th, I think he's going to perform. I think Arteta, with the project that he's building, I think he's done really well. He's been a good disciple to Pep Guardiola. And also, hot take, call me crazy, but I think this is the season where Jurgen Klopp will get fired.
You're crazy.
Call me crazy, hot take. I think Jurgen Klopp will get fired this season. And top also have Mauricio Pochettino as a contender for manager of the year.
Fired is so strong. Jurgen Klopp sacked. I feel like that's so strong with someone of his stature. I think like mutually resigned, mutually depart ways or something. But like sacked is wild.
I think fans are going to get tired with the squad that they have. And if they don't win any silverware, they're going to demand to be sacked. Klopp to be sacked.
Nick, I'm not going to lie.
I don't think we'll demand Klopp to be sacked. I think you'll see the FSG outside.
But he does. I think he does.
Man, ownership.
Spot on with the tired though. You already sound tired, and the season hasn't started.
I'm not tired of Klopp though. I'm not tired of what he does with our squad. I think he shields bad ownership.
You know who else does that? Robin Fraser. But that's for a different podcast. But guys, thank you so much for sharing your Premier League thoughts with us, with me, with our fans, with our listeners, with our parents, everyone. It's fun. I'm glad this is going to be a great season. This is going to be first of many different videos and podcasts that we're going to go ahead and release. I know that now that Ivan, you're part of Linners and Wosers, we can actually have interesting conversations about the U.S. men's national team versus Mexico. In the past, you've listened to it. It's just us bashing the roster. And so now we're going to go ahead and not only bash the American roster, but we're going to bash Mexico roster. We're going to go ahead and talk about the game, previews, all about CONCACAF. We have another one coming up for Leagues Cup, Messi, and what he's doing at Inter Miami. And Nick touched on this earlier, the video, but we have another person joining us here at Linners and Wosers. So go ahead and once we introduce you to Austin, he'll be joining us here full time on these podcast videos. But I'm going to go ahead and close us out here. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this special episode from wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Make sure to go ahead and give a follow to Linners and Wosers on both Instagram, Twitter. We're also on YouTube, TikTok, and come on over to our website to go ahead and read our daily articles that we go ahead and publish that cover pretty much all corners of the world in footy, from Saudi Arabia, MLS, USL, Champions League, Liga MX, Premier League, Serie A, your local Sunday league. We got it. We'll be there. And so, without further ado, thanks for tuning in to the finest footy news.